There's just nothing like a seed. It's like this living time capsule, continuing on a story that's centuries old. It also is something that you have to like keep alive. The seeds that I've been trusted with are grown in much less numbers than they ever have been before. It's gonna be documented on film. You're just lazing about. No footage of my dog catching a gopher or a rodent today. I'm a Korean-American farmer, and I grow predominantly Korean and East Asian herbs and vegetables. We do most things on the farm just by hand. We do a lot of things around seed saving and building community through food. A lot of the seeds that I have come from different seed preservationists and the different farmers that I met in Korea. If I fail at this, there's nowhere where I can buy more seed. Trying to see if you have one little baby little bean on here. That's a little soybean in formation. They're definitely struggling. One of the varieties in particular just keeps getting eaten no matter what. But these little guys are just happy. Because the whole time I've been farming, my little Namu farm, has coincided with the worsening of drought in California. For a lot of farmers, the strategy was to scale down. And we were able to actually do the opposite and scale up our production while using less water. We'd grow one row of each with like everything it needed. And then the other row, we'd give like half of everything. All the plants here are from seeds that I had saved from the plants that did well with those harsher conditions. By saving our seeds from the plants that performed best, what you're doing is just prioritizing that plant's ability to be adaptive for the future. So we could, conceivably clip the plant and thresh it into the bucket, but it is kind of nice to look for the heads that have the traits that you want from a number of plants, maintaining some of that diversity. So I'll put it through this screen and hopefully it's big enough for the seed to fall through and keep the bigger debris out, and then you'll screen out the small stuff, blow the rest out.
All that's left will be the seed then.
Hopefully, yeah.
I think it was really energizing to be able to see a farmer who was integrating seed sovereignty practices and seed saving into their production farm. Now, I'm growing out a lot of the seeds that you gave me, like the yard-long beans and the Azuki bean seeds.
It's sort of like an insurance policy.
Yeah, it's like a living community-level seed bank.
Exactly.
Instead of just putting them in storage somewhere.
I was born in Daegu, South Korea, and then adopted as an infant by an Irish Catholic family on Long Island. I was probably 19 by the time I ever even ate Korean food for the first time. When I was curious about growing Korean crops, I mostly would read cookbooks and I just look at the ingredients and try to think about what were really important Korean vegetables and herbs. A couple years after starting the farm, I decided to go to Korea because I wanted to see that biodiversity of the different plants and crops. I visited an organic research institute called Huksalim. Their focus is to look at preserving native varieties of different Korean crops. And they seemed kind of skeptical. They just kept being like, "Oh, you're from California." I was like, "Yeah, I'm a weird-looking adoptee from California talking to you about farming." Their chairman said in Korean, "Show me your hands." So I just put out my hands, and then it's all these grown men in suits talking to each other really fast in Korean. The next thing they said to me was "Okay, we'll show you the vault." It just looked amazing. It was wall to wall, floor to ceiling of just seeds. Different colors, different sizes. They all had like kind of funny names like Rat Eye or, the little one who sits. There's like hundreds of native varieties of soybeans, and I just had no idea. Some of the soybeans that Hook was trying to preserve and are growing on their farm, I'm also growing just to reintroduce those varieties to people living in the States. I wanted to kind of see what it looks like to try to conserve that biodiversity of the different plants and crops that are being grown there. I didn't know how to find Korean community, but I could grow plants in private. It almost acted like a mediator for me to starting friendships and relationships with other humans, not just plants.
Today we're gonna make sort of like a carpaccio is what I'm calling it, with the Korean chilies from my aunt that you're growing now. How long has it been?
7 years.
7 years, wow.
The seeds that your aunt gave us from Korea, she saved them year after year. That's what sparked our conversation about wanting to even work with one another to grow these peppers. To give someone a seed requires a little bit of trust. It's so personal, you care so much about it, where you just want to make sure you do a good job.
These are petals from the roselle. Where did you get this, actually?
There was this woman in Korea who I met who was growing this in her greenhouse. She introduced me to it.
It's amazing when people are looking at our produce, they're like, oh, eggplant, cool.
Yeah.
Zucchini, yay. But then it's look at these, and they're like, whoa, what is that? Yummy?
Delicious. And I know supporting the farm has it makes more work for you a lot of the time than if you were just go to the market and you could cherry pick everything you wanted.
Right. I think that's what we signed up for, you know what I mean? That's what you, as a chef or a restaurateur, but just as a citizen of existence, that's what you should be doing.
So this plot is where I had planted all of these really special heirloom dry soybeans from Korea. I had spent 4 years duplicating this seed from a tiny handful of seed I had been given. Was super excited. I planted this pretty large, about quarter-acre plot of it. And then they were just ravaged by voles and jackrabbits. I think there's a way I can quantify and sort of monetize the loss of oh, this is how many years, this is the expected income I was gonna get as a dry bean and as a seed crop. But yeah, I think it doesn't convey I don't know. Just how stressful it was to just have all of them die. Just all the seed we had grown for a couple years, just all gone. I have one season for soybeans a year. That 1 year missing from that is a pretty considerable setback. I can be somewhat forgiving of myself this year, but it just means next year, the heat is really on. The best we can do is just map out what problems occurred in what part of the field, and then just try to adapt our planting schedule and plan. They are kind of rare. They might just not exist in the foreseeable future. And I think everybody, not just farmers, has the responsibility to think critically about how we're all connected. This farm needs to be in existence because other people are really counting on it. you want to make decisions that think about the type of world we're going to live in and how those plants will be resilient. We may get a little bit of seed from some of these varieties. For next year, we're just going to like build the Fort Knox of soybeans, basically.